All right, well, seems like everyone's on the call now, so I guess we'll begin. Hello to everyone. Today we're here to meet about the webinar. We're continuing on the discussion of Multi DAQ, and today we're going to be focusing on the configuration portion of the Multi DAQ plugin for the iTestSystem software. All right. So yes, I think, has anyone had a chance to use Multi DAQ since the last time we talked? I think we'll be using the chat feature for this presentation, so if we have multiple people on mute, they can feel free to manually type in, and that way we won't be all talking over each other. Any additional questions during the presentation, feel free to just type them into that chat window, and after the presentation completes, we'll answer as many as we can. Also, this video is currently being recorded and will be uploaded to our website at iTestSystem.com at the end of the presentation. All right, well, let's get started here. We're going to go through our agenda really quickly. Things we're going to cover is we're going to go through the NI Max hardware configuration. It's using the National Instruments Max software. We're then going to go through how to create a Multi DAQ session. Then once that session is created, we're going to go through how to create tasks, enable the synchronization. We're going to show you how to select specific hardware and channels that you want to record your data from. And then finally, we're going to show you some file settings which allow you to automatically spawn off files based on a variety of criteria. And then finally, at the end, we'll have our question and answer session. All right, so I guess starting things off, I'm going to hand it to Todd Holkamp here, who's going to begin our demonstration.
All right, so what we'll do is I just wanted to quickly show you in the Measurement and Automation Explorer software, we have two chassis currently hooked up, two 9178 8-slot USB chassis. They both have a synchronization card, the 9469, that allows for the synchronization of all the channels in one task. And we have three 9234 modules used for acceleration-based measurements. We can see our chassis are connected and functioning correctly by self-testing the chassis individually. And then to check the synchronization connections for those chassis, we can click the synchronization tab for either of the chassis, and we can click discover the connections or verify connections, either or, and that'll let us know the ports that the chassis are daisy chained through, and then we can show a diagram to show the physical connection. Once again, a green line is good and the synchronization is correct, whereas if they were disconnected, it would be a black dashed line, and then if it's plugged in but not correctly, it would be an unknown orange dotted line. So we've confirmed our physical connection to the chassis, and we're up and running. I've got a pre-configured configuration file here that does have these two chassis included, as well as we've made a handful of channels to accommodate the chassis channel counts. So what we can do now is I'm just going to show you what a configuration DAQ for the Multi DAQ looks like. And what that looks like is we're going to have a single task with multiple channels under two different chassis. So this is all under one task. So to create our DAQ, we would highlight the DAQ under the project tree, select Multi DAQ. We can name this anything we want, and then add the DAQ. You can see it populates here. And then we highlight below the DAQ portion, and we're going to create a task. So we'll click Create Task. And the first thing we'll want to do, if we want this to be a synchronized test, which we have it hooked up to do so, we'll click the Synchronized button, and we're going to select the chassis that we want to synchronize. So we've got two chassis, and we're going to add the two chassis to be synchronized. you can see there's a diamond next to CDAQ1 that indicates that this is the master chassis for the synchronization.
And what that master implies is the synchronization. Each of these modules, or the chassis themselves, has a clock inside that they use to determine when to specifically take the measurement. And the chassis with the diamond means both chassis are using the clock of that particular module. So in this case, it's our CDAQ1 chassis.
Correct. So now I'm going to select the channels that I want to add for each one of these chassis for our Multi DAQ. So I've got CDAQ1 highlighted. I'm going to add the channels, click Modify Channels. I'm just going to take them all, so I'm going to hit what looks like the Fast Forward button. One thing recently that I remembered was that we can sort these channels by clicking on channel name. And what it'll do is it will sort them either in ascending or descending order. Click the OK. So we've added those channels. Now I'm going to select chassis number 2, and we're going to add the channels that are assigned to chassis 2. At this point, we can name the task anything we want. And we'll assign the sample rate. Click OK. We can see we have a single task created with multiple chassis and all the channels that are assigned.
And when you finally do take the data in the stack, that is how the data file will also organize all those channels. So your group will be the single task 1, and then within that group will be all your accelerometer channels. But it looks like we have 1 through 12 and 29 through 40.
Correct. And if you did need to have the channels in a different order, you could right-click the task and edit to come back to this screen, and you can modify the channels. Say you needed channel 3 to be above, you want it in your channel list, you can just drag those to reorder them as necessary. Or you can remove them and add them one at a time in any order you would like them to be shown in your data file. Or you can sort them to be alphanumeric. We're going to apply this for our changes we've made in our DAQ that we have created. Another option in the DAQ is to preview the data on save. So after you've saved the data file, it'll automatically bring up the basic test view to show you can examine some of the data before you move on to your next data set. Another thing that's included in the Multi DAQ is some options for data files saving. So if you want to auto-save these files, we can go to the settings and we can set a prefix. So every file would be named using this prefix. And if we want to save it as a series, we can save it with the date at the end of the file as the suffix, or we can just have it numbered. Typically go with the date and time. If there are already files, if you're using the date and time, chances are you're not going to have existing files in there. But if you were using sequential numbers, you may have things that overlap, so you would have to decide if you want to rename it or use the next available file name for existing files. Another nice feature is the file termination, where you can set it to create a certain size file, and say we wanted 10 kilobit files or 100 kilobit files. It would record until the file is 100 kilobits, and then it would restart a new data file. We could also tell it we only wanted to take data for a specific amount of time. I believe we could do, for 1 minute. Or we could tell it to stop a specific data file and record at a certain time of day. The nice thing is you can do one or all of these things, and it will say the file based upon which of these criteria is reached first.
Yeah, so when using those file settings, that's when it's really important to make sure you're have certain either use next available or are paying attention to that existing file setting, because your files will at that point be automatically generating over and over again. And if you unfortunately have that set to overwrite and you're using sequential numbers, it'll just keep replacing your file, your prefix 0 over, and then you'll lose all the data beforehand.
Yeah, you definitely want to have next available for that. Okay, so that basically takes us to the point where we would be running the DAQ, and that's pretty much everything I believe you wanted to cover in this.
Yep.
In this presentation. There's another thing I could mention here is when you're creating your tasks, you can have multiple tasks. So we could create another, and we could call it task 2. What we'd have to do is have available channels. You can have multiple tasks with channels collecting data at different sample rates. The one thing that you would have is the two tasks would not be synchronized. To have synchronous data, it has to be all under one task. That's.
All right, so we have a question from Rob. He says, does reordering the channels carry through to the recorded data?
Yes, yes. So whatever we see, I'll delete this task. Whatever we see in this list is the order that the data is going to be recorded in when you look at the data file. So, like we said, if we added these in kind of a crazy order, and it was kind of random, and we hit OK. Now that we've changed that order, that is the order that the data, when you save the file, that is the order that the channels will be in.
All right. Well, very good. Does anyone else have any questions? If so, feel free to type those into the chat window. All right. Well, looks like we've answered all the questions you had now. If you have any questions that you think of later, feel free to email myself at chase.petzinger@unyh.com or email Todd at todd.holtkamp@unyh.com. Also, be sure to check our website for any of our latest updates and follow us at LinkedIn. We'll be posting a lot of blogs and updates of the latest projects we've been working on there. All right, so as you just saw, Multi DAQ is pretty simple to configure and allows for a variety of options with regards to data saving and channel configuration. Next month, we'll be exploring the how to run portion of Multi DAQ. So that's once it's all been configured and you have your DAQ set up exactly the way you want. We'll be showing you just how to run and then all the configuration options as far as viewing your real-time data. Starting next month, that will be October 30th at 10 p.m. Eastern. We'll also be sending out a quick survey that will be almost identical to the previous survey you received. So please fill that out because that helps us make sure we can target these presentations for exactly what you want to know and help us improve ourselves. All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending, and as I said, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us by email or phone. And we will see you at the 30th. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.